Smart people are not very smart. Actually, smart people in some of these colleges are absolute idiots. What do I mean? Well, there's a brand new tweet that is going epically viral. Nina Strominger, who is a professor, said, I asked Wharton students what they thought the average American worker makes per year, and 25% of them thought it was over six figures. One of them thought it was $800,000. Really not sure what to make of this. The real number is $45,000. Now, of course, there's a couple of ways to look at this. One, they're just dumb. That's probably actually not right. Two is they're misinformed. They basically don't have the information, and therefore they're just making educated guesses, which aren't very educated. Or what's more likely is that people who end up at Wharton, one of the top financial schools in the world, actually, if you were to ask them, what is the average salary, the average income of the people you grew up around, that you're surrounded by, that are your family friends? Actually, most of them probably do have an average income of six figures. But ultimately, that isn't the right answer. Obviously, the average income is around $45,000. And so what this proves is that we need to do a better job, not only of financial education, but also of making sure that people understand whether you lived in a rich area or a poor area, whether you lived in an urban area or a rural area. Not everyone is exactly the same as you. And ultimately, this is one of the reasons why I think that part of the education system, one of the things we do a horrible job of, is we should actually expose people to much more in terms of different ideas, different locations, different people, and also different cultures. When you're looking at finance or you're trying to understand investing, being able to understand what's going on in other financial markets or with other financial assets is really important. That diversity of experience, that diversity of thought ends up actually being a superpower when you're trying to be a better, clearer, more effective and informed thinker. But ultimately, what this shows is that we literally have in the halls of some of our most elite institutions kids who are completely detached from reality. They think that the average salary is six figures, and somebody thought that the average salary in America was $800,000 a year. I don't really know what else to think about this other than this proves we got a lot of work to do. And not only is it around financial education, but it's also just in teaching people how to be critical thinkers, how to be independent thinkers, and how to actually solve problems without just saying stupid shit like this. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, whoever said $800,000 is a legend. Like, what?
Should he be expelled?
$800,000 is the average? Like, what world are they living in? That is absolutely wild. I mean, take it for what it is. That's what they're saying. I feel like there had to be some confusion or something. That just seems like an outrageous guess. Like, I don't know. They're educated.
The other thing that I'll say is 75% of them did not think it was over six figures. So as much as it is easy to kind of dunk on these kids, majority of them actually didn't think that, right? But 25% is a very big number compared to what you would think.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the one at 800 is just wild. John, what do you think?
I mean, that's supposed to be Wharton's a very good school, right? Traditionally, it's known as a lot of people who are now in high power situations and high influence in markets and everything went to Wharton. So that's pretty surprising, just not knowing that. But look, it's probably not their specialty, right? It's not their job to know that. It's interesting that someone thought it was $800,000. I mean, that is egregious, I would call it.
There's a fool in every crowd.
Yeah, and when you think about it, to be honest, America is obviously a lot more prosperous, the people that live here, than all around the world. So I think it's 85. If you live on more than $30 a day, you're in the top 15% of the world.
Oh, I bet you're even more elite than that.
No, that's it.
If you're born in the United States, you're probably in the top 5% globally.
Almost 4 billion people in the world, so a little bit more than half, you can call it, live on less than $6.70 a day.
Yeah, that's wild. I forget what the stat is, but it's like if you're basically...
That's less than $2,500 a year.
Yeah, if you live in the United States, you're in the top like 10% globally, right? And I think that it's actually, if you live in the United States and you're above the poverty line, you're in top 1% globally.
If you are at Wharton and you think that the average person makes $800,000 a year, you should get kicked out of Wharton. That's like an intelligence test that you failed. You sneaked your way in here somehow. Your parents paid for. I don't know how you got in, but you failed. You're out. You're done.
What are the odds that the person who thinks that people get paid $800,000 a year is also the person that their parents paid for them to get into
for a
school?
building.
That's a certainty. Yeah.
That kid definitely has their family name on a building at Wharton.
Yeah. The kid doesn't even live in the dorms.
And if you're in that kid's study group, leave immediately.
yeah.
Kid's like, what do you guys mean? Like when I go to the country club, like everyone at least makes 800. Like you guys don't make $1 million? Poor.
Yeah.
Right?
I said,
Oh, you meant median.
Yeah, like just but here is the other thing I think that's really important, right? Is that like there are people who have that mentality, right? As much as we're joking around and stuff, like there are people who have that mentality. But I also think that it's really important, not because it's like, oh, kids shouldn't be stupid, but it's when you actually get these people who have a high probability of being successful, being in positions of power or influence, etc. If they're actually operating with the mentality that the average American makes over six figures, even if it's $800,000, whatever, the decisions they make are completely detached from reality, right? So like, let's just say, I don't know how many politicians went to Wharton, but I'm sure that there's Wharton is one of maybe 5, 6, 10 schools that there's an outsized number, right? It's Stanford, Harvard, MIT, Wharton, Yale, wherever. And when you think about that, there is likely to be somebody from that school that's there right now that ends up in a position of power or influence, either at the state, local, or federal level. And so like they're making they're making policy decisions based on this 25% of the people. Like that's wild. And it's easy to see like that's where we get a screwed up world is because people they don't understand like, dude, what? Like there's no way. And then the other thing too that I think is really important is like the whole idea of like coastal elites, people on the west or east coast, they think everyone lives like them. They think everyone has the same viewpoints as them. And then you're like, oh, flyover country. And then you learn that like people in, I don't know, some of these states that are like, I don't know, Iowa, right? They're like, dude, what are you guys talking about? You guys live in a shoebox in New York City, pay these outrageous rents, have all these crazy ass ideas. Like, you know what I do? I'm happy. Right? Like I go to work every day. I hang out with my friends and family. I go to the bar on Friday night.
My biggest problem is finding the baseball game on cable.
Yeah. Just like, dude, you guys live.
There's like some weird rules out there.
Yeah, you guys live like a miserable ass life. Yeah, you guys live like a miserable ass life, right?
Yeah.
But by the way, then the people on the East and West Coast, they think the same thing of like the flyover country of people in the South or whatever. And so it's like, look, everyone has a different view of the world. Everyone lives a different lifestyle. Some people do it out of necessity because they have to be somewhere for a job or family or whatever. Other people choose specific lifestyles. But I think that what we're watching here is just like, this is a perfect example of how getting exposure to a bunch of different ideas, a bunch of different cultures, a bunch of different people, and also a bunch of different markets really can be a superpower. It can give you an advantage in life because there are people who think that the average salary in America is $800,000 and they literally could be your colleague. Yeah. Like imagine if that's your colleague and they're like, yeah. Like, I think that we should go and of course we're going to fly first class because everyone makes $800,000, right? Like, it's crazy stuff.